The accusation, they're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any impact in the election.
We must, absolutely must, hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history.
But yet promoted this idea.
James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years.
And then there's been some incredible clips of all these different news reporters, CNN and MSNBC, just saying over and over and over again, clear evidence of Russian collusion.
For 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations that failed to show full transparency.
When the carefully polished facade of a former president collides head-on with the raw and unfiltered strike of undeniable truth, the fractures don't merely appear. They burst wide open. Joe Rogan steps into the arena swinging, carrying both the deadly precision of a sniper's aim and the crushing impact of a wrecking ball. At the same time, J.D. Vance delivers a sharp, unexpected jab that slices through the noise, leaving absolutely no breathing space for rehearsed political spin. What begins as a playful roast quickly transforms into a full-scale demolition, tearing apart the carefully manufactured legacy and exposing the unsettling reality that has long been hidden beneath the surface.
Full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto-pen.
First of all, I don't believe, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, whether you agree with Donald Trump or disagree with him, I don't believe in hectoring voters. I believe in persuading voters. Your support is not something I'm given or something I'm owed. It's something you got to go out there and work for. So one, I just don't like the tone of going in. I mean, look, the better question for Barack Obama or anybody to ask is not why black men, it's not how dare you not vote for Kamala Harris.
If you're finding value in this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. The takedown kicks off in the same way. All legendary demolitions begin by dragging into the light the very things Obama's supporters would rather stay buried. The carefully manufactured persona, the flawlessly polished speeches, the dramatic pauses so meticulously timed they made half the nation swoon, as if they were hearing lyrical poetry. Rather than political talking points, Joe Rogan slices straight through that glossy facade as if it were nothing more than flimsy drywall, exposing how behind all that charm stood a politician who mastered the performance of looking busy, while accomplishing less than a DMV employee on a sluggish Friday afternoon. Rogan shows no restraint. He paints the portrait of a former president who could market hope like a brand on a billboard. But once the camera stopped rolling, couldn't sustain it without a teleprompter, a small army of speechwriters, and an audience willing to erase from memory 8 long years of underwhelming and uneven results.
Never seen it?
No.
He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him.
From the way Rogan lays it out, Obama's legacy isn't the story of sweeping transformation, but rather a masterstroke in branding. Brilliance. He came across as a living, breathing seminar in self-promotion, a walking, talking advertisement. capable of persuading crowds that every Tim and half measure was actually a bold stride forward, and that every foreign policy misstep was some elaborate game of 12-dimensional chess. Rogan dismantles the myth that the Affordable Care Act was an untouchable masterpiece, reminding audiences it was riddled with loopholes, saddled with price spikes, and packed with broken promises, collapsing under its own weight faster than a flashy startup that burns through its funding before even launching. In Rogan's telling, Obama wasn't the groundbreaking pioneer history books claim. He was a polished salesman who convinced the nation to buy into a product stuffed with hidden fees.
I think the best people age the hardest. I think Obama was probably like a very idealistic young man
Oh, Lord, what's going on now? Who's hollering? I can't even see it.
who really wanted to change the world. And that dude aged more than anybody.
I mean, I'm getting old, so I can't hear that well. I can't see that good.
Who aged the least? Trump. Trump just
This is something that
he just brushed that shit off his shoulders like it was nothing.
We knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball.
Rogan tears apart the nation's obsession with appearances, mocking the absurdity of how something as trivial as a tan suit spiraled into a week-long national scandal during Obama's presidency. Not because the suit itself held any significance, but because the media eagerly latched onto any excuse to swoon over his image, instead of confronting the uncomfortable reality of wars, still raging years after his repeated promises to end them. This was a president who could authorize a drone strike on a wedding in the Middle East and, astonishingly, land a Vogue cover not long after. Rogan pounds on that irony, pointing out that if style points alone were the measure of leadership, Obama would have been crowned president for life. But in the real world, polished aesthetics don't rebuild crumbling cities, don't cover the cost of groceries or rent, and certainly don't repair broken systems left to decay.
The amount of backstabbing that's going on.
That's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies.
Like when she got into office, you realize like you're not really in control of everything because there's another person who's in control of each individual department, and they'll stop whatever you're trying to do every step of the way. They get in the way of everything. What are you going to do? You're going to replace everybody?
Then, just when the roasting seems to be simmering at its peak, J.D. Vance steps forward with the first of his 3 precision strikes. Vance takes aim directly at Obama's carefully crafted image as a champion of the working class, dismantling the illusion that he was ever truly one of them. He breaks it down clearly. Obama loved invoking middle America in his speeches, but he treated it more as a convenient campaign backdrop than an actual governing priority. Vance drives the point home with force. Under Obama's leadership, jobs in the Rust Belt didn't miraculously return. They evaporated even faster. Replaced with polished rhetoric about the inevitability of globalization, it lands like a calculated, surgical strike, exposing Obama's Midwestern photo ops for what they really were. Stage-managed political theater.
Obama during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
I don't understand how we got so toxic, so divided, and so bitter. And
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that.
Did you have a high opinion of him
Yeah,
before?
I did. I did just as an intelligent person, a statesman. He's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You think you're going to do something and then you get into office and you're like, oh God, what a quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about Trump.
Rogan jumps right back into the fire, ridiculing how Obama positioned himself as the Democrats' ultimate salesman of moral high ground. He highlights the glaring irony of a man endlessly preaching transparency while presiding over one of the most secretive administrations in modern history, from a Department of Justice that relentlessly went after whistleblowers to a cushy, mutually beneficial bond with Silicon Valley elites. Rogan drives home the point that Obama didn't just play politics, he drafted an entirely new playbook on how to conceal the truth, while appearing noble in the process. The roast only intensifies when Rogan compares Obama's Nobel Peace Prize to handing a championship trophy to a team before the season even begins. Because once he stepped into office, the peace part seemed to fade into the background, replaced by the steady hum of maintaining the status quo. Rogan refuses to let rose-tinted nostalgia blur reality. Instead, he paints a scathing picture of the post-presidency Obama, reclining on yachts, inking lucrative Netflix deals, and pocketing Six-figure speaking fees from the very corporations he once vowed to confront. The hypocrisy, Rogan argues, practically writes its own script, and he rings it for every ounce of comedy and outrage, calling it the most profitable retirement plan ever dreamed up by a man who claimed to despise corporate greed. It's the kind of punch that doesn't just sting in the moment, it burns and it lingers.
It's fun because things are actually happening. Very different than most of the time when people get elected.
And I will shut down the Federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the state.
Most of the time when people get elected, they claim all these things when they're running for president. Then they get into office and not much changes.
Individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
And in fact, a lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of...
J.D. Vance steps up for his second strike, this time targeting the brand of racial politics Obama perfected, not in the historic, barrier-breaking sense that his defenders like to celebrate, but in the calculated way he wielded his identity as a shield to deflect criticism. Vance contends that Obama's most enduring achievement in race relations wasn't policy reform, but persuading his supporters that questioning him automatically made you morally compromised. Meanwhile, real initiatives that could have narrowed the racial wealth gap or restructured broken systems were quietly sidelined in favor of polished speeches about unity and hope. Vance slices into that contradiction, exposing how the carefully crafted image of a national unifier often concealed the reality of a shrewd political divider when tactical advantage was on the line.
Well, let me say just a couple of things. First of all, the president has been very clear. We're not shielding anything. The president has directed the attorney general to release all credible information and, frankly, to go and find additional credible information related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. He's been incredibly transparent about that stuff, but some of that stuff takes time. You've got to assemble that stuff. You've got to compile that stuff.
J.D. Vance steps up for his second strike, this time targeting the brand of racial politics Obama perfected, not in the historic, barrier-breaking sense that his defenders like to celebrate, but in the calculated way he wielded his identity as a shield to deflect criticism. Vance contends that Obama's most enduring achievement in race relations wasn't policy reform, but persuading his supporters that questioning him automatically made you morally compromised. Meanwhile, real initiatives that could have narrowed the racial wealth gap or restructured broken systems were quietly sidelined in favor of polished speeches about unity and hope. Vance slices into that contradiction, exposing how the carefully crafted image of a national unifier often concealed the reality of a shrewd political divider when tactical advantage was on the line.
Obama did it, and it's disgusting. It's a disgusting lie. Let's play it.
Said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides. I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
Okay? See, that's crazy. I have never seen that last part of it
because the news has said that lie over and over and over and over.
Rogan seizes the opportunity to drag Obama's foreign policy missteps back into the harsh spotlight. He tears apart the carefully crafted no-drama Obama persona by cataloging the disorder in Libya, the endless sinkhole of Afghanistan, and the infamous red line in Syria, a line that was drawn, erased, and redrawn so many times it resembled a clumsy etch-a-sketch in the hands of a nervous child. Rogan drives the point home that while Obama could deliver speeches with the cadence of a seasoned statesman, his actual choices on the global stage frequently left allies bewildered and adversaries emboldened. That wasn't real leadership. Rogan argues it was risk-averse calculation dressed up in eloquent language, cautious maneuvering masquerading as vision.
Like, I've had candid conversations with Tulsi Gabbard about what it was like.
It's a disservice to the American people that former President Obama's office and others who are criticizing the transparency that is being delivered by releasing these documents. They are doing a disservice to the American people and trying to deflect away from their culpability in what is a historic scandal.
She's a person, tries to be friends with everybody, tries to reach across the aisle. She's got that whole aloha spirit.
The answer to that statement can very clearly be found throughout all of the documents that we have released, showing that Russia took action to try to sow discord in the election, but showed no preference for or against any.
The roast turns personal when Rogan zeroes in on the near cult-like devotion Obama continues to enjoy in certain circles. He ridicules the way some still treat him as if he were a retired superhero, capable of swooping back onto the scene at any moment to rescue America, conveniently overlooking the reality that many of today's political and social messes have roots in choices made during his administration. Rogan likens it to blaming the current homeowner for the faulty wiring while ignoring the fact that it was the previous owner who installed it in the first place. Then J.D. Vance steps up for his closing strike, shifting the spotlight to Obama's role in shaping the Democratic Party's ongoing identity crisis. He argues that Obama's reliance on style over substance trained an entire generation of rising Democrats to prize branding above measurable results. The Instagram era of politics, where likes, retweets, and viral clips carry more weight than legislation, traces much of its DNA directly back to the Obama playbook. Vance's observation lands heavily. The critique isn't just about what Obama did or failed to do. It's about how his example built a political culture obsessed with optics while steadily losing touch with the real-world struggles it claims to represent.
Nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
The thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
When he's not complaining, he's trying to sell you stuff. You're running for president and you're hawking merchandise. Gold sneakers, $100,000 watch. Why are you selling the watch? What are you doing?
Which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe it anymore. We've gotten numb to all this stuff.
Rogan closes in for the knockout, weaving every thread of the roast into one relentless final blitz. He casts Obama as the consummate political illusionist, dazzling the audience with charm and charisma while the real work, or more often the absence of it, played out behind the curtain. It wasn't hope and change. It was hope rebranded as a marketable product and change reduced to a hollow buzzword. Obama had the uncanny ability to make half the nation believe the scoreboard was broken, even as the opposing team kept running up the points in Rogan's framing. Obama isn't some tragic fallen hero or even a clear-cut villain. He's the cautionary tale of what unfolds when a country falls more in love with style than with substance, with presentation over performance. Every measured syllable, every perfectly timed pause, every camera-ready grin was part of a larger sleight of hand that left voters holding on to how he made them feel, rather than the results they were actually promised and in the world crafted by Rogan and Vance. That's the most devastating punchline of them all. Barack Obama's meticulously polished political brand was built to appear untouchable, immune to scrutiny, but Rogan never agreed to those polite, deferential rules. Every smooth cadence, every lofty slogan, every supposedly inspirational pause was dragged through the mud and wrung dry of its mystique. The deeper Rogan carved into the myth, the clearer it became that Obama's public image wasn't the product of some rare genius. It was a masterclass in packaging mediocrity and selling it to a nation desperate to feel good about terrible ideas dressed up in pretty words.
Remember when they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this. And then they go, it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
Today, I authorize the armed forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort to protect Libyan civilians.
Rogan immediately seized that thread and sprinted with it, highlighting how Obama's post-presidency existence had morphed into the very corporate elite lifestyle he once claimed to reject. The Netflix production deals, the globe-trotting book tours, the luxury vacation estates, every perk of the global aristocracy wrapped neatly in the same polished charm he once used to win votes. Rogan painted the picture of a man who didn't simply retire from politics. He rebranded and upgraded, transforming his persona into a billion-dollar industry, all while his most loyal admirers still defended him as if he were in the trenches, fighting for them. The beauty of Rogan's roast wasn't in rage, it was in mockery. Each contradiction was delivered with that signature sarcastic disbelief, the kind that makes you wonder how so many people missed it for so long. The disastrous healthcare rollout, Rogan turned it into a gag about the greatest communicator in politics who somehow couldn't communicate with his own website. The foreign policy blunders, Those became comedy sketches about a Nobel Peace Prize winner who seemed to think the award came with a do whatever you want card. Then Vance dropped his final hammer. He reminded everyone that the Obama years weren't some golden age to be romanticized. They were the warm-up act for the political chaos that followed. Without that gaping chasm between soaring promises and flat delivery, without the stage-managed optimism that curdled into cynicism, the political landscape might never have shifted as dramatically as it did. And when Vance laid it down, Rogan just grinned and piled on, painting Obama not as a victim swept along by history, but as one of the chief architects of the frustration that redefined American politics. By the time they wrap, Obama's carefully protected image wasn't just dented, it was left in ruins. The man once thought untouchable in the court of public opinion had been stripped of the magic, the mystique, and the myth. What remained wasn't the legend of a transformative leader, but the raw reality of a politician who played the game skillfully enough to convince millions that style could pass for substance, and that speeches could substitute for results.